This week on the Analog Circle podcast, if you're an Assassin's Creed Black Flag fan, then we have some very interesting news for you. Sony CEO comes out to give his thoughts on where he stands with subscription services. Squre Enix will start going in a bit of a new direction when it comes to game development, and we get some new information about The Witcher 4. All of these stories can be found here and a lot more in episode 195 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and welcome to the show. Oh, you guys have to forgive me, though. I missed out on recording on Sunday. I do apologize. I had to be to the workplace, and as a result, I was not able to record. But my humble apologies. Now, guys, I do want to let you guys know this. The Ravens are in the championship game this weekend. Oh, my goodness, man. Shout out to the Ravens. Shout out to the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, man, it's been a long road getting to this point. Now, I bring that up to simply say that I'm not going to be recording this Sunday coming up. Y'all are going to have to excuse me on this one, because I don't know how I'm going to feel if certain situations, because I ain't going to speak about it, I ain't going to put it out there, but if certain situations do happen, I don't know how I'm going to feel after the game. I mean, we are going up against Patrick Mahomes, out of all people. You ask anybody here in Baltimore, well, it's a kind of a split. Some people wanted to see Josh Allen. Some people wanted us to see Patrick Mahomes. Me, if you ask me, I'd have said, give us Josh Allen, but that's not the way it panned out. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. Also, I wanted to shout out these three brothers. Shout out the Crimson Phoenix. Shout out to Cody Clark for the emails. I greatly appreciate them. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have enough time to go over them today because I got to be out of here by 8:30. I'm recording this at 7:05 p.m. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, but shout out to you good brothers, and shout out to Lawrence Jones as well over there on the Facebook group, the Analog Circle Facebook group. I would suggest, if you guys want to, please join that group, because on Sunday when I was unable to record, I actually left a message in there letting you guys know that unfortunately it was not going to happen. So if you want to keep up to date with the latest gaming news and topics, Lawrence Jones does an absolutely amazing job of that in the group. And if you want to get the podcast there as well, it will be available there after every single recording is done. Now, the other thing that I want to let you guys know is if you do want to be a part of listener feedback, and I know y'all are probably saying that ain't never going to happen. I promise you it is going to happen. I promise y'all. But if you do want to be a part of it, of course, as always, you can do it two different ways. You can either email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com, or you can call in and literally let your voice be heard at 443-380-0281. Now, with all of that being said, guys, I think it is time that we get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news. How that went down. So let's get started with a story that I got from VGC. Let's start off, with this very unexpected news coming from Ubisoft's SVP of Strategic Partnerships and Business Development. His name is Chris Early, who said this about gamers owning their own games. He said, quote, "One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to to a little bit like DVD. Let me read that again. He said, quote, "One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games." End of quote. Now, Chris also believes physical game sales will continue to decline, but doesn't think they will ever go away completely. So this shows that, look, when people talk about these streaming services and, you're talking about Spotify or talking about Netflix, we see that the general public has been faster to adopt those digital formats. But as Mr. Chris has brought out, it has not translated to video games to that extent, and that people are still preferring to own their discs, to own their own physical media. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago at this point, because I am behind the 8 ball, but I had seen an article talking about Starfield in Walmart. Now, whether or not that was true, I'm not sure, but they said they were selling physical copies of Starfield for 3 cents. 3 cents? Are you joking? 3 cents for a physical copy of Starfield. Now, was that true or not? Did any of you guys see the same article? Because I didn't go through it. I didn't dig into it that deep, but I said, man, this has got to be a typo. 3 cents? But it was all in the vein of getting rid of the physical copies of the game. Now, granted, how well did Starfield do? I thought it was a very, very great success. I thought they sold a couple of million copies, at least 1 million copies of the game. Now, does that translate to physical copies or mostly digital? I'm not sure what that ratio is, but this also goes back to the point of Best Buy already saying late last year, and Walmart for that matter, and I believe Target. Don't quote me on Target, but I definitely know Best Buy and Walmart. They both said that they were clearing their shelves of Blu-ray DVDs, which, goes back. Well, I don't know if you call a Blu-ray a DVD, but yeah, Blu-ray discs and DVD discs, the movies were going to be gone. So to Chris Early's point, this seems to be the trend. And they also did say in Best Buy, they never mentioned that they would be getting rid of all of their physical games. So this is a bit of a positive sign for someone like myself that does prefer to get certain games. I can't say all, because then I would be being disingenuous. I have a ton of digital copies of games upstairs, but I also have quite a few PlayStation 5 games right now that are physical. So what I would say is, again, I do prefer some of my games being physical, and I am really glad to see that this trend when it comes to physical games has not fully taken the same route as DVDs and CDs. And matter of fact, I would like to know from you guys' perspective, how many of you guys still do collect the physical games out there, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo? I would love to get you guys' opinion on that. How many of you still prefer to get your games physically versus digitally? Let's move on to the next story. Now, this next story comes to us from PC Gamer. Now it says, let me see. Yeah, it looks like we have a new development studio hitting the gaming scene, consisting of former CD Projekt Red veterans, including Witcher 3 director Conrad. Man, this brother's last name, whoa, buddy, is spelled Tomaz. And his last part of his last name is spelled Kiewicz. Kiewicz. I'm gonna just call this brother Conrad. So it consists of brother Conrad and lead quest designer on The Witcher 3 and Blood and Wine, and quest designer and designer director on Cyberpunk 2077. This guy covered a lot of different positions. His name is Matuez. Same last name as Conrad, so they gotta be siblings. Shout out to those good brothers. Now the name of the team is called Rebel Wolves, and they were founded in February of 2022. Now the name of their game is called Dawn Walker. Very interesting title for this upcoming game. Now the game is described as, quote, our own AAA IP dark fantasy RPG that's intended to be the first game in a planned series, end of quote. Now the game is now in the alpha stage of development, and the studio has said they will reveal more about what's coming later this year. So this seems to be a very good team. Of course, The Witcher 3, one of the top tier games of last generation. I think everybody would agree that are into those types of games. It was absolutely amazing. The side quests were unbelievable. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I beat the game. I didn't. I got about 20 or so hours in, but it was phenomenal from what I played. It was absolutely fantastic. So some of the guys that worked on that game and the Blood and Wine DLC are on this team. Once again, it's called Rebel Wolves. Now, I want to get to the title of this upcoming game that they're working on, Dawn Walker. Now that, man, if that doesn't sound like a Blade kind of situation, I don't know what does. Dawn Walker, what? Man, listen. These guys, they obviously have a pedigree. And again, they're going for that dark fantasy RPG, a AAA IP out of the gate coming from these guys. I am very interested to know, because obviously this is in early development. We know that Blade is in early development as well. I wonder, will these two titles clash to a certain degree? We understand what Blade is. Blade is a Marvel IP. You know, he's a big name superhero, maybe not as big as Iron Man or Spider-Man or a couple of other superheroes out there, but he does have a big name. I'm curious to know how much is Dawn Walker coming from, again, the studio that's called Rebel Wolves. I wonder how much this game is going to be inspired by Blade, or am I looking into it a little too much? I guess only time will tell. Let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the next story. Now, this one is actually kind of interesting. So it is no doubt that Squre Enix has been on a run. I mean, these guys have been on a tear with games releasing. You know, their game releases have been absolutely crazy. I mean, we've had Final Fantasy 16 that released last year. Marvel's Avengers, I understand it wasn't a huge hit. It wasn't what people were hoping, but that came out in 2020, as well as Final Fantasy Remake. That also released in 2020. And now this year, we're getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And then even last year, we got Octopath Traveler 2. That just came out on the Nintendo Switch. And we got an announcement about Visions of Mana releasing later this year. So their output has been unbelievable. But that trend appears to be changing, and it appears that they want to slim down their lineup going forward, according to company president and representative director Takashi Kiryu. His last name is spelled Kiryu. Kiryu or Kiryu. Man, y'all know I got problems naming names. Anyway, he said, now this is what Mr. Takashi said. He said, quote, "It has less to do with our development function and more to do with the numerous entries in our lineup. I want to structure our development function so that we are able to ensure higher quality from each title by slimming down our lineup." End of quote. Now, this is something that me personally, I like to see. I mean, I rattled off several different titles over the last 4 years that Squre Enix has developed, and it appears that they would rather slim down on the amount of different IPs or games releasing per year, slim that down to concentrate on higher quality titles. I think that is fantastic because the market is saturated. Oh, it's saturated. I don't know if y'all remember that, but anyway, it is very, very saturated out here. It's a lot of games, so many to choose from. Some games get overlooked because there's so many other games that are releasing. I think that this is the way the industry should go a bit. Go ahead and just release 1 or 2 great titles for the year instead of releasing 5 and 6. I mean, I kind of miss the days now. Don't get me wrong. Don't drought us out. Don't have us in a full-on drought for the whole year. But I kind of miss the times when we could really celebrate a big AAA title that would release and not say to ourselves, well, this is dope that this game is coming out, but doggone, my backlog keeps going up and up and up. How am I going to get to this game? I'm going to have to beat this game, that game, that game. Then I can get to this game. And I understand for some people that is a great problem to have. I understand that. But for me, personally, I think that more games would get more shine and sell more. Now, of course, you have to be a great game in order to sell. But if they are releasing more high quality titles and less of them per year, I think that them concentrating on 1 or 2 titles would do so much more for them than trying to, as it were, to a certain degree, throw a ton of different things up against the wall and hoping one of them sticks. I hope that this is a very successful situation for Squre Enix, because if they're successful at it, then maybe it would trickle down into other companies actually taking on these same practices, but only time will tell. What time is it? 7:21? Woo, I'm cutting it close. Let's keep on going, guys. Now, this next story, I got it from VGC. Now, we have some very telling numbers. Courtesy of a survey that was conducted at GDC 2024. Now, the survey had over 3,000 game developers participate, and the question that was asked was, quote, "Which platform are you developing your current project for?" 66%. This is over darn whelming. 66% said PC. 35%. Now, this is an interesting stat. Wait till y'all hear this. 35% said PS5 and 34% said Xbox Series. The series. That's it. Xbox Series. But the most interesting, though, was 8% said the Nintendo Switch successor. So that means around 240 people are working on this new hardware. What the world? 240 people? Now, hold on. Now, to be fair, that's not a lot of developers. especially knowing it's releasing later this year. So they're definitely on the clock. But like I said, to be fair about this, though, the Switch hasn't been officially announced, or released for that matter. It's quite a ways away from that. From what I've heard from different reports, they're saying September and possibly November. We went over that before, but they haven't officially announced it or, released it. So maybe some of these developers aren't saying anything because who knows? Are they under a NDA? Are they supposed to talk about something that they're working on for Nintendo? So maybe it's a situation of timing. Maybe there are plenty more developers that are working on the successor to the Switch, but they're just not saying anything because, once again, Nintendo has not made an official announcement. So I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, for the most part, as it stands anyway, Nintendo does most of their games in-house. About 90% of their games are done internally. They're not really looking for a lot of third-party support. So that's one thing that Nintendo has going for them. But the thing that I found so interesting was that 35% versus 34%. 35% developing for the PlayStation 5 and 34% developing for the Xbox Series. That is very, very, very close because in my mind, looking at the numbers, looking at how, and this is not a shot to Xbox because boy, oh boy, y'all did y'all thing at that direct. I gotta tell you, they did their thing at that darn direct. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. But yeah, I got to give them their credit. Got to give them their credit. Man, oh man. That developer direct, that thing was serious. I really, really enjoyed it, man. I thought it was fantastic. I will go over that. I'll just give you guys this because I'm going to have to really, I don't know how I'm going to get this off this episode, but I'm going to have to really condense this one a little bit, but I will say this. Senua's, it's not Sacrifice, Senua's Saga. That game looked amazing. Looked absolutely amazing. And I know I'm jumping all over the numbers with PlayStation and Xbox. Matter of fact, I'll do this. Let me finish this up real quick, this story, and we'll jump into my thoughts about the developer direct. But what I was saying is the numbers, looking at how tough of a road the Xbox Series has had to go through with numbers, you would think that a ton more developers would be abandoning that platform because it's not viable with the money play. You would think that PlayStation 5 would have a much, much bigger percentage of developers developing for that versus the Xbox. But as we see, they only have 1% more. Now, granted, this is really a small peek into the development because, again, this was a survey of 3,000 different developers, which is a pretty big number. But it's not the industry, not by a long shot, but just the fact that 34% are developing on the series and 35 on the PlayStation 5. They are like neck and neck with development. But hey, let's go ahead and move on into the next. Well, actually, I don't want to move into the next story just yet. I'm thinking now that I think of it, Xbox has a ton of doggone studios. They got Activision, for goodness sake. They have Bethesda Games, ZeniMax, for goodness sake. So yes, this actually does make a lot of darn sense. How many teams is that? About 50 teams between the two of those publishers? Yeah, never mind. This isn't that shocking now that I think of it from that perspective. But because I'm talking about Xbox, let me tell you about my thoughts on this direct. This direct was sensational, man. It was so doggone well done. I saw this when I was in Buffalo, New York. I was delivering some freight up there, had some time to sit and watch it, and I was very, very intrigued on what I saw. Of course, Hellblade 2, come on, man, come on. That game looks so good. I know it's $50. I know people are wondering, man, it's going to be 8 or 9 hours. That's not a lot of time. Oh my goodness, what is going on? I don't like this. I hear ya. I hear you. But if the game is good, cause it darn sure looks the part. Now, whether the gameplay is going to match up to those visuals, that's a bit of, I could get a little shaky. I don't know, but I have a ton of confidence in Ninja Theory. I thought the game was marvelous. Absolutely fantastic. I loved how the developers, they talked about the game, talked about the different things that they were working on towards the game, looking at the actors, looking at the mocap. Oh, they did fantastic. The other title, Avowed. Now, when I saw Avowed for the first time, and of course, you guys got to remember, I was looking at it on my phone. So my phone isn't my TV. So on the phone, I was like, man, this thing looks not so good. Looks like something that could have ran on the Xbox One. As far as I'm concerned, it is terrible. But when I got home and I saw it on my TV, oh, I said, oh, God, dog. Oh, God, dog, my eyes have been opened. Oh, my gracious, this looks really, really good. Very promising. Very good looking game. I was very happy with what I saw. And we know that developer over there at Obsidian, those developers, they do deliver. Now, granted, I ain't gonna sit up here and act like I'm the biggest fan of them. I am not. I absolutely am a zero fan, because now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think I've ever played one of their games or have been excited to play one of their games. But this one right here, Avowed, I am definitely willing to give that a shot. Now that other, whatchamacallit, the game that was by the Citizens, the developers that were behind the Citizen games or whatever. Hey, listen, man. I have not played one of these kind of games since Populous back on the Super Nintendo. I tried SimCity on the Super Nintendo. It wasn't quite for me, but it was okay with Populous. Populous, I actually enjoyed that, thought that was nice. And from what I saw of this game, now, of course, I can't remember the name of the game, but it looked good. I felt a little bit of a way though, when they said it was exclusive for PC. I kind of gave him a little bit of the side eye with that one. Like, oh, here we go again. Xbox games always go to PC, and I understand this is more of a PC-centric game, but I don't give a doggone. If the two platforms are supposed to be one and the same, then you give me the same game over on the doggone console. Y'all want to tell everybody, play where you want to play. No console needed. Then doggone it, I need that same energy through and through, even if it's a PC game. And I'm going to tell you something, that game didn't look bad. Would I be playing it? I ain't going to sit up here and say, yeah, no, probably not, but I would still like the option. I mean, Game Pass is going to be in Game Pass on PC. Why not put it on Game Pass on the console? You know, good grief. What could it hurt? We've been hearing about mouse support for the Xbox since the Xbox One. They were supposed to be getting keyboard and mouse support. Where is that? Where is it? I'm sure there are tons of console gamers with having Game Pass. They would be more likely to say, let me just give this a shot, see what happens. It may be something I can get into. But for me, yeah, I don't think I would be doing it, but it was interesting. I thought it showed well for people that are into those kinds of games. Now, the mana, that secret of mana joint that they show, Squre Enix, what a surprise. What a doggone surprise. I enjoyed that. It probably wouldn't be a game for me, but I wouldn't be against possibly playing it. I like the art style. It kind of reminds me of the Tales franchise a little bit, so if it plays something like the Tales franchise, that would be something I would possibly, not saying I'm going to run out to play it, but it could be something further down the road that I may give a shot just to see what it's about. But I thought that looked really good. It was great to see this relationship with Microsoft and Squre Enix really taking off, especially since this new CEO over at Squre Enix is taking over. And we see what they're doing with their games, slimming down, the lineup to concentrate on making the games better quality. So it seems like these guys are really going into a different direction with this new CEO, and just the fact that game showed up on an Xbox stage was incredible. Now, of course, that's not going to be in Game Pass. You gotta go out and support it. If you are in to JRPGs or RPGs, this is your time, Xbox fans, to continue to get these kinds of games on the platform. As long as you go out there, show your support, buy it, and show them that these are the games that we too like to play on the Xbox brand, then as long as that money is coming in and you showing your support, then I'm sure other games will come. Of course, they were talking about rumors of Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox last week sometime. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think so, especially when you talk about Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That was supposed to have been up. That exclusivity deal was up, I believe, April of the following year. It was on the box. I have the physical copy upstairs, and it says it at the bottom of the box that it is exclusive until something 2021, I believe. And we still haven't got it. And we're in 24 right now. So 2 years later, and it has, well, not quite 2 years, but going on 2 years later, and it has still not shown up on a Xbox console. So Final Fantasy 16 coming. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it does, it is not going to be any time soon. Now, I feel like it's one game that I'm missing. I covered Avowed, covered Senua's Hellblade 2, covered the Sim game. I guess that was all of them. I feel like I'm missing one, but overall, I thought the show was a solid 8. I gave it an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 because finally, it looks like Xbox is rolling. They are actually getting games out that we want to play. I mean, Hellblade 2, we have been looking at that since 2019. And finally, 5 years later, we're about to get it. Now, I will say this, though. Now, y'all know I am a huge fan of Ninja Theory. I don't think they miss. I don't think Ninja Theory has ever missed on any of their games that I have played. Now, the first Hellblade, those looking puzzles. Hey, yeah, that was a little too much for me per se. But their previous outings, I thought they have been flawless. But I will say, them having to work on this game 5 years, and I understand COVID was a thing. It did happen. But if this game is going to be 8 hours long, and it took you 5 years to do this, I don't know how I feel about that. I just don't know. I'm a little conflicted when it comes to 5 years of being in the trenches working on this game, and the result is 8 hours. Now, visually, who's going to say anything about the game? It looks stunning. I'm just really hoping that 8-hour experience is going to be like nothing we have ever played before. But the thing is, again, Xbox, they have shown off. Oh, Indiana Jones. That's the kind of world, did I forget that? Indiana Jones. Man, come on, man. God, dog. Oh, shucks. Man. Oh, the game of the show. That game, man, listen. I understand some people were really let down by the game not being third person. I understand that. Me, I was conflicted. I was saying to myself, look, we know what Machine Games does. You know, they have made some amazing Wolfenstein games. Those games were way better than I ever thought they were going to be. So we know what their pedigree is when it comes to the first person shooter space. We know they are excellent at what they do. So when I found out that they were doing Indiana Jones, I thought maybe they would look at this as a challenge and make it third person, but they didn't. And the thing I will say is after I saw the game, I said, man, I'm a little let down, but to a certain degree, I actually like that they made it first person. And I know some of y'all are probably saying, stop the cap, stop lying. I understand that. But the reason why I do like the fact that they made it first person is because it definitely gives the Indiana Jones game its own space. Yes, I understand that Uncharted, it definitely bit off of Indiana Jones. Nathan Drake is Indiana Jones, and before him, it was Lara Croft. Both of those games have taken all of their inspiration, or a lot of it, from Indiana Jones. I 100% understand that. So you would think it would make just the best sense that Indiana Jones would be third person like them. But this is the thing. To me personally, if I want to play Nathan Drake, I will play Uncharted. If I want to play Tomb Raider, I will play Tomb Raider. I like the fact that they are making this game, Indiana Jones, its own thing, where you can't, outside of them treasure hunting and going through caves and doing different puzzles, you can't really put it in the same boat necessarily as an Uncharted and a Tomb Raider. So I love the fact that the whip, you can use it as a distraction. It looked like, man, he was hemming them jokers up, brother. He was like wrapping legs and taking them down with the whip. I liked it, man. It looked so doggone good. I was excited. I am really excited. And the fact that it's coming out this year, oh my goodness. Who saw that coming? It was a fantastic show. One of the best shows. Man, come on, man. I'm getting an Xbox. I have to have an Xbox Series X. I want it. And it's because of Indiana Jones. It's because of Hellblade 2 and possibly Avowed. That was enough for me. This show was very solid, and this isn't even the summer show. This isn't even the E3 show. They said they're going to have something on Activision later on down the road. I'm all tongue-tied right now, pardon me, but they're going to have something later on down the line that's going to cover what Activision is doing. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, this is awesome. All of these games are coming out this year. I don't think anybody thought Indiana Jones was going to make any kind of release date anytime this year until this event. So for that, again, it was a solid 8 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. Fantastic. Listen, I got to move on to the next story because it is 7:42. Let's keep on going. Man, where are we at? I'm going to have to do a doggone speed round on y'all. This next story, I got it from Inverse. So we just saw, now I was just talking about it. We just saw this developer direct, and one thing people talk about is, I can't wait to play. Man, let me skip past all that. Because when I wrote this, I didn't plan on really going over the developer direct. I was going to do it in the listener feedback. Again, shout out to the good brother Crimson Phoenix, Cody Clark, for emailing the show. I'm definitely going to get to those. But the thing that I was talking about with this Inverse situation, this Inverse article that I got was the director of Game of the Year winner Baldur's Gate 3. He was actually talking about he said this in a tweet. He said, quote, "Whatever the future of games looks like, content will always be king, but it's going to be a lot harder to get good content if subscription becomes the dominant and a select group gets to decide what goes to market and what not. Direct from developer to players is the way." End of quote. Matter of fact, let me read that again because I feel like I did a horrible job. He said, "Whatever the future of games looks like, content will always be king, but it's going to be a lot harder to get good content if subscription becomes the dominant and a select group gets to decide what goes to market and what not. Direct from developer to players is the way." End of quote. Now he continues though, quote, "We are already all dependent on a select group of digital distribution platforms, and discoverability is brutal. Should those platforms all switch to subscription, it'll become savage." End of quote. So again, we have the Game of the Year, the director of Game of the Year winner Baldur's Gate coming out and saying that in his mind, the best practice to have, pardon me guys, is direct from developer to player. So basically you go out there, you pick up the copy, it's from them to you. He's not such a fan of these subscription services either, because his fear is, they're already depending on a certain group of digital distribution platforms as it is already, and getting discovered in these digital places where you can put your games, these digital distribution stores, is already hard for discoverability. It's brutal, he said. And by them being able to control different content that goes into these subscription services, it's going to become savage. So he's pretty much saying that if the industry continues going down this path of subscription services, then this could really cripple a lot of different gaming companies out there, especially if they're controlling kind of in a way the narrative of what they will accept in the service and what they will not. Now, to me, I'm thinking of it like this. He's probably looking, and this might not be what this brother means at all, but I'm guessing that he may be looking at it from a no more physical discs available point of view. Because again, he's saying, in his mind, getting it directly from the developer to the player is the best way to do it. So I'm figuring he's saying, okay, we're going to dismantle that because we're talking about these different subscription services. So if we have to rely on Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo to put our games into this digital service and depend on them to actually get it traction, and we don't really have a hand on it to be able to do anything about it, then this could be a travesty. This could be tragic, savage in his words. So I'm hoping that eventually something will be done with these subscription services. There was a lot of these developers that were really talking about these subscription services this week and how they're not fully on board with them. And this is very interesting because the narrative at one point in time was Game Pass was the greatest thing to ever happen to some of these developers. But we are seeing reports today that kind of go a little against that. So we'll see what happens with this. Like I said, hopefully the physical game market will be around a little bit longer. The reports that are coming out, especially from that Ubisoft employee, saying that gamers are a lot harder to just kind of cut the physical copies out, like unlike DVDs or CDs, they want to hold on to their copies. So hopefully to a certain degree, even though I know it is declining, hopefully that market will never go away. And to his point, again, the Baldur's Gate not developer, but director, to his point, hopefully, they will be able to continue to go from developer directly to player, but only time will tell. Let's go ahead and let's move on into the next story. So let's talk industry numbers.
Show me the money.
So according to TechSpot, now this is where I got this story from. As a whole, U.S. spending on games increased 1% last year to $57.2 billion through December. 57.2 billion. Now through December, it saw a total spending up 4% year over year to $7.9 billion. God, dog. This is a ton of money. Now, software add-ons and subscriptions were up 1% to 48 billion in 2023, while accessory sales jumped 4% to $2.6 billion, with a 7% increase in gamepad sales led by the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge. Now, hardware sales were down a small percent, but still managed to make $6.59 billion. And as far as console sales are concerned, the Xbox Series X reached a lifetime high in the U.S. in December with the $350 price point. I'm telling you, Xbox, please, if you want to be PlayStation, I ain't going to say beat them, but if you want to at least have a fighting chance against PlayStation, lower it down to $350. They said again, the Xbox Series X reached a lifetime high in the U.S. in December with that price point of $350. Please do that, Microsoft. Let me see. But PlayStation 5 was still the month's bestseller, with Switch taking the second place slot and Xbox taking, unfortunately, third place. And according to TechSpot in Europe, now this, in Europe, Xbox has declined 52%. God.
Boo this man!
Hi, dang, how did you drop over half? Whoa, wait. Xbox, listen, man, I'm buying one. I'm rooting for you. Good gosh. $350 would do wonders over here in the U.S. I'm not saying give up overseas. Don't give up. Keep fighting, brother. keep fighting, god dog it. Keep going. But man, it's getting tight. It's getting very, very tough over there. It's tough going, god dog it. 52% decline. Wow. But again, overall, the industry is doing great. I mean, y'all heard all of the billions. I can't add all of this stuff up. 57.2 billion, 7.9 billion, 48 billion, 6.59 billion for the hardware. Stuff is up 7%. With the Game Pass. I mean, this is the thing that baffles me though. With the industry doing this great, making these tens upon tens upon tens of billions of dollars, why are developers constantly being laid off? It baffles me to a certain degree. And of course, I'm not an accountant. I have no inside knowledge of how these companies are run, but you would think on the surface, these guys are making a killing. They're up by 1%. Spending was up by 4% year over year. The numbers are just astronomical. So I just don't get it. I do worry about the industry. I really do worry about it quite a bit. Because I just wonder, how many more jobs are going to be cut and what is gaming going to look like in 10 years? I mean, what is it really going to be? I mean, this is not a, hit the red panic button or anything like that. I'm not trying to promote that. But I mean, do you guys ever sit back and wonder what the industry is going to be like in 10 years with all of these job cuts and with these AI technologies that are going to be being implemented into the workspace? I mean, it really makes you wonder what is going to happen in the future. But for the sake of time, we got to move on into the next story. Now, this is a quick story. I actually got this from Windows Central. So in more positive Xbox news, because I never want to leave on a negative all the time. That's just not good. But on a positive note, Xbox news, Stalker 2 has finally got a release date of September 5th, 2024. And this news was confirmed by developer GSC Game World. This is excellent. This is fantastic news, man. Especially knowing what that team has gone through personally, the horrible war that broke out over in their country, unfortunately losing some of the developers on the team, actually losing them to the war that's been happening over there. I mean, them being able to make this game at all is absolutely astonishing. I salute them, and I just truly wish them and their families the best. I mean, this is absolutely amazing, because at one point in time, I didn't think this game was going to come out. I thought it was a wash, and I would have fully understood why it wouldn't come out because of the circumstances that they are up against. So I fully get that. But just again, the fact that the game is coming out September 5th, that's astonishing. Absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead and get into the next story that I got from Inside Gaming. So let's talk about Sony. Now, with Sony being the leader of the pack, many people would like to know what are their future plans. Well, in an interview with Norges Bank, spelled Norges, Norges Bank Investment Management, Sony CEO and I had his name right. God, dog, you ever practice something and practice it and you get it, and then when it's time to do it, when it's showtime, you freeze up. I just had this guy's name. It's like Kenshiro Yoshida. He had this to say pertaining to the future. He said, quote, "It will be ubiquitous wherever there is computing." Hold on, let me start that whole guy. He said it will be ubiquitous. Wherever there is computing, users will be able to play their favorite games seamlessly. Why PlayStation? Well, I think he meant to say will. While. I think he meant to say while. He said why, W-H-Y, but it should have been W-H-I-L. Anyway, while PlayStation will remain our core product, we will expand our gaming experiences to PC, mobile, and cloud. End of quote. Now, I don't think that is anything crazy. I don't think that's a red flag, because this was something that Jim Ryan said years ago. On PC, games are already showing up there. They've been showing up there a couple of years. On mobile, now the mobile side, now that's a bit different. I can't recall any games being mobile from PlayStation at this moment in time. And cloud is, it's not new, but it's a little new, because you guys remember years ago, Gaikai was a server or a service that PlayStation picked up, and that was supposed to be something that was supposed to get them to the cloud space a lot sooner, years ago. So I think this is just him retelling, the fan base that this is going to happen. It's already happening on PC. Be on the lookout for it on mobile and cloud. They're going the same route as Xbox. And I'm not really a fan of it. I'm really not. But this seems to be the way that unfortunately, the gaming landscape is actually going. But he also had his own take on subscription services for gaming when he said, quote, "People usually play one game at a time. So the all-you-can-eat type of mini games may not be so valuable compared with video streaming services. So we'll have a kind of balanced or hybrid service on PlayStation Network, a subscription as well as pay per content." End of quote. So even for him, looking at the subscription model, he's actually in my exact boat. He's talking about me, because like he said, having this buffet of games all at one time at your fingertips, that doesn't work for me. I'm only playing one game at a time. I don't need to know about the other 400 something games that are in the service. Now, granted, some of you guys can say, well, don't play the games until you finish the other game. I'm like, I get that, but the service, the reason why you're paying for the service is to have access to all of these games. And for me, I only need one game at a time. And in some of these subscription services, we do know that certain games don't stay in there forever. They do leave the service eventually. So for me, it just seems like a waste. For me, that's not every other gamer. But again, to his point, he said that for him, they're going to have a balanced or hybrid service on the PlayStation Network. So it says, he's going to have a pay per content. I guess they're talking about getting the games, the AAA games that you want to get. And then he also talks about the subscription, where if it's some games that you want to get as well outside of the possible AAA big titles that they release, they will also be available in the subscription. Now, does that mean they're going to have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 games in that subscription service in a month? I don't know. I mean, that is the question. I doubt that they do that, because right now they give you a ton of games to choose from as well, just like Xbox does. So if they were to shrink that down to 4 or 5 titles a month, I don't know if that works, but hopefully he will definitely be able to find a balance with the two. It is 8:02, guys. All right, I got to get ready to wrap this up. Okay, let's move on to this God dog. I have lost all train of thought because I'm looking at this clock. All right, let's go on into the next story that I got from Comic Book. So let's jump into some rumored Xbox news. I done just fricked it up. Anyway, we're going to talk about, man, I ain't going to give up that easy.
Rumor has it is something that only I know.
There we go. God dog. So let's get into this rumored Xbox. Man, when you're trying to rush, you start making all kind of mistakes. That's the second time I hit the wrong button. But according to Tom Warren, Xbox has a new controller that, quote, is supposed to be announced in May ahead of the June showcase, end of quote. Now, some of the features on this controller, oh boy. Let's calm down. Okay. Some of the features on this controller, according to the FTC leak, include the controller being more durable, having haptic feedback, and an accelerometer as well, which I believe if you pick up the controller, it'll automatically turn on. This is good news. I was hoping for more. I'm hoping that this new controller is closer to a DualSense controller. If you have not played on a DualSense controller, you need to do it. But for the sake of time, we got to move on into these last two stories. So I got this next story from Games Radar. So in Assassin's Creed news, it appears that due to several LinkedIn profiles, an Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake is in the works, and development on it started back in September of 2023. Now it appears that the Ubisoft Singapore developers will be working on this. Now reports have also cited that the remake is in the quote earliest stages, end of quote. Also, to bring a little context into the conversation pertaining to this, Ubisoft Singapore is also working on Skull and Bones, which releases February 16th. And just to confirm, Ubisoft has not made an official announcement about this so-called rumored Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. It absolutely makes sense. Skull and Bones, that has to do with ship combat. And we know that one of the big draws of Assassin's Creed Black Flag was being on a ship singing shanties. So this is going to be interesting. I didn't get a chance to play Black Flag. I think I gave it away in a giveaway one point in time. But anyway, sake of time, I got to move on to this final story that we got from Games Radar. So if you are a Witcher fan, then you will be happy to know that The Witcher 4 or Polaris, which is the code name, will enter its production phase this year. Hold on, man. Now, wait a second. Now we ain't going to just skip past it. I might be late to work. Let me see something. Hold on. We are going to figure out what the heck this means. Cause I hear these design phases and all this stuff. So where is it? Let me see. Hold on. Okay. All right. I got it. What is the production phase in game development?
According to Nuclino, the production stage of game development is when your studio takes the concepts created during pre-production and turns them into source code and various assets. It's where the bulk of your time, effort, and resources go.
So they are really getting into the thick of it. This is where the bulk of their time is going to be. So this is very, very good news that they are already in the production phase, and it's going to start this year. So this is great news. Now, CD Projekt Red CEO Adam Badowski said, quote, "We'd like to have around 400 people working on the project by the middle of the year." End of quote. Oh, that's a lot of people. Also, co-CEO Michael Noah Kowalski. God dog, these brothers with these names. Shout out to y'all. He said something. Yeah, this was excellent news. He said, quote, We think that AI is something that can help improve certain process in game production, but not replace people. Yes, don't replace the people with AI. Oh, man. This is fantastic. So they're going to get up to 400 people working on this. They start in pre-production this year, and they are not going to be replacing people with AI technology, taking people's jobs. I absolutely love it. But for the sake of time, that is the end of the gaming news. I don't even have a question for the week. God, dog. Hey, listen, man. Look, y'all gonna have to forgive me this week. Hey, listen, we are gonna jump into. I don't know if I'm gonna have a question. I had to figure this out real quick, but we are gonna jump into this week's video game theater, and we're gonna be taking a look back at 2007. Matter of fact, August 6th, 2007 to be exact, to a game called Stranglehold. I brought it up, I think last week or week before sometime, but it starred legendary actor Chow Yun-fat. And in this scene, we're going to be tuning into a deal that has gone wrong. So we will be back after this week's video game theater while I stumble. Oh, stay tuned.
How come he's still not dead?
We ran out of shooters. Why don't you go down and try?
Young wants me at the Mega. The Imperial 9 deal is going down right now at the center table. Keep tequila on that bar stool.
You got the passports?
Too light. You're short.
Wang agreed to the amount. Now, do you have the passports or not?
I don't give a damn what Wang agreed to. This is an I-9 deal.
Be cool. We got heat at the bar.
You brought a cop to our deal?
Man, God doggone Stranglehold, man. Stranglehold. Game is a classic as far as I'm concerned. God dog, bullet time, and that joint was absolutely barred none. It was fantastically done. But let's go ahead and get into the final section of the podcast while I'm risking it all. At 8:10 p.m. I'm supposed to be out of here at 8:30. Oh, shucks. All right, here we go. I got to get dressed and everything. The question for this week is gaming better today or worse? I hear people talk on these different podcasts, in these different forums, in these different groups about how much gaming was so much better in the past versus today. And I say, you are crazy. You are kidding me. It is no way you could believe in your heart of heart, mind of mind. Maybe you can. Maybe you do. But the gaming was better back then than it is today. I can't subscribe to that, brother. I come from the 8-bit, not even 8-bit, whatever Atari 2600 was, 500 kilobytes. I come from that era. And to see gaming today with the graphics, the storytelling, the voice acting, the environments, and now with the PlayStation 5 and Series X, the load times with the CD, well, they're not CDs, but the Blu-ray discs, man, y'all are bugging. People say games were more original back in the day. I think what it is that if you are in my age bracket, I'm 45 years old, born January 5th, 1979. We have seen everything thus far. We have been here since the beginning of gaming. And when you've been at the forefront of something for so long, it gets to a point where you kind of can't see anymore. It's like, man, okay, I've seen that genre. I've seen this story, seen that story. It becomes harder and harder and harder to impress somebody like us. Now, for me, I am thoroughly impressed. I've been enjoying my gaming life this whole generation with the PlayStation 5. It has been incredible. But I think that for some, you're jaded a little bit because you've already seen everything. These new gamers that are coming in, these guys that are 15, 16 years old, they haven't seen this stuff. I mean, for them, they're playing online, Fortnite and some more stuff. Spider-Man looking this good today? We never had that. I actually played Spider-Man Miles Morales today just to see what it looked like in 4K. And the city looks like New York City. It is crazy. So to me, I can't subscribe to games back then were better than games today. The stories are so much better now, so much more cinematic. Y'all remember back in the PlayStation days, we had to go off of the story beats off of cut scenes up until Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kojima. Having to play it through, now, granted, some of those were real time, actually, but happening in real time. But we were from that era where that was the only way to really show a cinematic story in gaming, which you had to rely on cut scenes in order to do it. CG, we are far past that now. Even what was it called? God dog. Quick time events, QTEs. We used to have to rely on QTEs to make the game look cinematic, like Shenmue and Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. You used to have to do the button prompts even in the God of Wars back then. I mean, granted, you still got to kind of push buttons a little bit here and there, but they are actually happening. Those cinematic scenes back then are happening in real time today. Nathan Drake, Uncharted 4, that scene where he's being dragged by the rope and you're actually shooting in real time and your brother picks you up on a motorcycle and drives you away. That would have been a cinematic scene at one point in time. That's happening with you controlling the action today. So I can't subscribe to that notion that gaming was better back then versus today. But that is the question I have for you. Again, is gaming better today or worse? I would love to get you guys' opinion. As always, you can call in and the phone number is simply doggone. It is 443-380-0281, or you can email the show and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Guys, wish me well getting to work on time. Holy smoke, it's 8:16. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell. Oh man, I had a blast with y'all, but we will do it again. We ain't gonna do it this Sunday though. Nah, the Ravens are playing in the AFC Championship game. I can't do it. I can't do it. Hopefully I'll be celebrating and not sitting there with my head in my lap. Hopefully not. But anyway, Next week, probably next week, next Wednesday, hopefully. Well, man, let's just say next week when we do it again. Until then, remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next week when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.